overwrite it. All right. All right, everybody. I guess this is let's
This
see.
is SIG release meetings for June 6th, 2023. So actually, most of the well, other than I guess we still want to talk about the integration test, but Rado has a list of agendas, so I can hand it over to Rado if Rado can just kick off first. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, let me just share the screen. Just a sec.
Yeah, Rado, when you're doing that, I was going to request you, would it be possible for you to join our daily Scrum meetings?
Sure, yeah, I've joined.
I mean, first of all, I wanted to know, do you have the invite for that?
It was on this general Zoom, I guess, for you've posted it on a Slack, I guess. But if there's like a separate invite, you can send me or resend.
Yeah, it's in the calendar. Probably I'll work with you offline of how to get that. It would be really great if you could join our daily scrums for the next. It will be for the next 10 days or something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess that's for June 5th and my 29. Together, some issues were also carried over from my to this week. Anyway, for integration testbed works, there's steady influx of PRs incoming there. I try doing my best reviewing them, but yeah, good to see a lot of work done there. Victor, I guess, is off also for this week, right? If I recall correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So next thing for code scanning and checking. Still for MPL2. What's the current stance? There was a mail thread. Thanks, Bala, for spinning it off in the first place. Is there have we reached an agreement or something about this MPL?
Yeah, I think so. What I did based on John's suggestion, I started off. I put the first message in Slack, and then in the TSC channel, I put the message, and then I started off an email chain with giving them how the CNCF handles it. They are also putting certain MPL stuff. So at this point of time, it looks like the TSC will give us an approval to include this particular component.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Also, I mean, that's kind of interesting topic. I really wanted to see how it will go and what the position will be about this.
So in general, it appears that the LF, they give us the guidance, the program manager. So it appears that if anything other than Apache 2.0 comes into the project, which could potentially muddy up the license, then the TSC has to take a call, and LF has no position in it. But in our case, in general, that's why we went into see what exactly CNCF does it. All the permissible license, no issues, is a direct approval are there. BST or MIT, obviously Apache 2.0. But everything else, it appears that TSC has to approve this on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, and there's also this thing that we're not really using or reusing the code from this library. It's rather indirect dependency.
Right.
So there's that. All right. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Also, there's one library and it's used for parsing the versions. So maybe if it will reach kind of this point that we really have the R1 pressing, maybe this can be just replaced with something homebrewed.
Yes. That is possible. Yes, we could do that in the. Right now, I don't think we have time, but probably we
Yeah,
could. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It will add a workload, but that's also something not. Yeah, if we were to reinvent the wheel there, it's not really really challenging, I guess, thing to replace. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for the info. I've pushed
On that topic,
Mhm.
Radu, at this point of time, is it enabled on all the repos?
So for the scans, I've posted on Slack a few days ago. There is a separate fossology server, and I've rescanned all the repos. And
Okay.
for scan that's working every commit. For now, it's in Nefio and API, but I will push it to the other repositories as
Yeah.
well.
Thank
For
you.
the like,
Another one important repo is free 5GC if you have to prioritize.
all
Because
right.
that's where the more, these are the three main repos where our main code is going.
All right. Yeah. Okay. The rest of it will go in basically one push. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So for the lichen scan, the one that scans the binary for linked libraries, it has a configuration file that if you, for example, specify only 3 licenses, so let's say Apache, BSD, and MIT, it will fail the commit if it contains any other license. So for now, I'm leaving this hanging until we get the official TSC information about the MPL, I guess. I've pushed also a lot of PRs today for license header updates. So for now, I've just added headers to files that didn't have any licensing header there. This header says, it's Apache 2 license, but also includes the SPDX information. There are some discrepancies for sure, because for some headers, for example, say like the copyright 2022, 2023 Nefio or Nefio authors or something. So I just thought maybe I'll show. This is also, I guess, up for discussion. What the official, so to speak, header should look like. So what I've pushed looks like this here in the div.
By the way, Rado, on this one, I made a comment, right? Sorry, I think this file is auto-generated, by the way.
Those bases files here?
Yeah,
Yes.
those are all, so we need to
But
put
I'm
that
not-
into the generator code.
Okay. I didn't know that. All right.
I made a
Okay.
comment to you, so, but yeah, I just FYI.
Actually, I'm sorry. Something's come. I need to run out for a few minutes. But the thing I wanted to talk about is getting an EDE framework up. Right now, we've got the EDE tests that we've got the G-Cloud command that you can run, but like I want to know where to drop a bunch of files or what framework, whether those files are Bash or YAML files that we automatically execute or whatever they are. I think we have a few open issues right now around like, we've tested this manually, but we need an EDE for it. So we just need instructions on how the SIG release wants SIG automation and others to create EDE tests and make sure they get properly triggered and evaluated by PROW. So that's the main thing I wanted to raise. Is that something we understand how to do and we should just, and it's all set, or do we need to discuss more?
There's a bare bones framework to run basically whatever you like as a command there. So this can be improved for sure.
I'm not worried about
discuss it.
improving it. I just want to know how to use it. So if there's just a README or something, if we can throw that together, that would be super helpful. Then we would know how to use it.
Yeah, I maybe I'll update the wiki for test infra with this information. There's really not much to it. There are two jobs. One is running every day. I set it at noon, but I didn't really check which noon this is. Whether it's taking like the browse noon or I guess we'll see. And the other job is it can be triggered on demand. There is this file E2E underscore infrastructure txt, something like this. Let me quickly check. So whenever you alter it, it will just start the build. You basically have to create like a PR for it against it. You see that with Prow was really created in one thing in mind, which is keeping a really large Kubernetes repository, build jobs for checking the committed code, and we're kind of with this building Docker images in there and running these jobs, and so we're kind of stretching the capabilities of the system. So there are some things that I guess we have to do some like a makeshift things to run it.
We should, if you all feel there's better tools or different tools for different parts of the problem, we should do that. I like the Prow for the GitHub automations.
Yeah, that's
all that stuff.
Yeah, there's also I mean, depends on what will be the needs. But we can also delegate part of the jobs to other system if this will be more feasible. So I spoke with Vish a few days ago, and he was describing how the whole flow looked at OpenStack, if I remember correctly. So there are a few things that I guess will be pretty hard to do in Pro. So we can test the CI/CD system, which they use there, which is Zool. But I'm open to using like even a few of them if that helps you guys with the whole process. So so that's I guess the main point.
So
that was also the reason, John, I was requesting Rada to join our daily Scrum so that we can be up to date on these things.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I really do have to run because I have to, but I just wanted so E2E. Okay. So if you can, okay, I guess if you could just explain this real quick, that would be helpful, I guess.
Yeah. So this was changed recently. Before it was just a file, but I guess it was Victor's PR. So if you change anything in E2E directory, it will trigger the job. So you can just create like a dummy file there if you want to run whatever you got in your scripts there. And there is one job which runs Monday to Friday. It's not even a known. All right, so it runs once a day to rerun on what we got in a code base. If this is going to be used, if probably something in external repositories will be changed, just to confirm that it's working. So that's what we have for now. But if you want to just trigger the job, just change anything in this E2E directory.
Okay. And what scripts does it run, or what does it do?
So what it does, it basically spins up Terraform, which creates the VM in in a cloud, Google Cloud environment, and this Terraform as part of its execution starts the Ansible playbook,
Right.
which is linked here in a provision. So it does it by executing this GCE E2E SH. So whatever you put in there, it will get executed.
Oh, okay.
On this machine. So it copies over this whole provision directory. So whatever you put there, it gets copied to destination machine, and it's basically executing this on a local host there, and it is it. So
and then the results. How do the results get flagged as a failure?
Well, it depends what kind of failure. So anything that returns it has a return code 1 and above, it will just fail as the shell execution. But for the tests, I mean, depends what's gonna be used there. But
that's where I'd love to get to that stage. But okay.
But this is safest. Yeah, the safest thing is they actually do like an exit 1 or something in case of error, and it will catch it as an error. In this case, the VM will stay in GCE, stayed on, so you can do some digging what went wrong or something. If you want to test it there on this environment, maybe there are some discrepancies between what you've got on your workstation and what's in this VM, right? So you can just look around what happened there, and then remove the VM. I will actually create, I guess, some job that will kill them after a week, if nobody logged in. Yeah, if nobody logged in there or something in 5 days. So just not to.
Thank you. Sorry to kind of cut short. I got something came up, but really appreciate everything here, and I will check out the EDE stuff then when I get back.
So John, before I lose you, I have a question for you. I know you had to run, so we will discuss about versioning, but what is your preference? If you tell us, probably we'll keep that in mind when we discuss that topic for the day.
I mean, I think for my preference, as long as it doesn't indicate we're doing some sort of backward compatible, some sort of, as long as we're not implying that we're going to be backward compatible to this release in our next release, I'm okay. So like a 0.1 or just an R1, R2 is fine. But not like a semantic versioning. This is version 1, and we're going to support everything that we've done forever. That's my main fear. This is super early code. It's going to change a lot. You heard the debate we just had before this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like basic primitives are going to change, and I want to make sure that we don't box ourselves in. That's my main concern.
Yeah, it's either 0.1 or R1, R2 is your preference. Yeah, that's in line with what I was thinking too. Thanks, John. I mean, probably we'll discuss between the rest of us here, and then I'll come up with a proposal. I'll send it to the TSC.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
I'll see y'all later. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right. Cool. What's next? So the header updates. So I will have to look into this. Further, there were some changes to 35GC operator artifact build. Tal, you're on?
Yeah, what is the question?
I have a question. What should be the image, the artifact, the image name?
Yeah, I'm annoyed by it. I do want to change it. We've in the past used free5gc operator, but the make file we have right now calls it free5gc-operator-controller, which I don't know exactly how that came through. I can do a quick PR to fix it right now, and I suggest we standardize on that rather than using the current name, which is just awkward.
I had this change this to free 5gc-operator. As you said before, it was like free 5gc operator controller, right?
Oh, you're not. So you're actually not using the make file through this command.
No.
Oh, okay.
there's the same build flow as for any other images. So if
the confusion happened because we haven't activated this yet. So we have been using the makefile just to deploy it. So we just have two methods right now for generating the image, right?
Right. Yeah, so this one will go every commit, and there's one which, if you create the tag, it will create one that's named like a tag.
Is there a way to use the makefile, or is it with this Kaneko thing, or will it?
I mean, I guess it's good to leave the makefile option, as many people just use it to generate locally the images to test in whatever environment they are using for like a local dev tests, and just have one, so to speak, official build that it's held by Pro, and it's actually using the same thing for every image. This way, if we break something, we will have everything broken.
Right.
In the same manner.
Well, I mean, but also maintaining two different paths, so they might diverge in some way, because here you're just using the Docker file directly. I think it's okay, right? This is what we're doing for all our images, right?
Yeah.
We always have this double approach. So the makefile, we really consider it for devs only, and this would be the official kind of distribution.
Right. Yeah, there's also one thing that this is running in a container. So in order to run Docker in container to use the makefile, you have to do all this trickery with exposing this socket and stuff like this. It's kind of creating a security, maybe not a security issue, but we're kind of exposed to the internet with all this build. So I would like to limit the.
Well, but we're doing a build anyway. You have to build the code first, right? So if you scroll up, you're actually we first have to build the code, right? So we're using the makefile. We are doing a make build, right?
Right, but in a makefile, are we using the Docker to build the image?
Yes, that's what you mean. So
yeah.
So in your environment, you do not. Okay, I see. So we can do make build, but we can't do the other makefile.
So we have to run Docker inside of Docker, which is not optimal.
Okay, but Kaneko can refer to the same image that we built in. Well, I guess it has to. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, it's a pretty cool project. I'm learning it. It's my first time using. Okay. Okay, I guess is there a way to trigger this manually?
Well, only but by a PR. This one will build every PR. Actually, every merged PR.
Yeah. So every commit, basically, every commit.
Yeah.
On the
every merged commit, because it's in a post here in a category.
Oh, okay.
Or post submit. So all this below runs after you merge the code. The pre-submit is the space where you have like your code checking, like linting and all this stuff. So it's working on a commits, submitted PRs, not merged PRs. For manually triggering the jobs, it is. I mean, there are ways, but it's in all cases it's exposing the infrastructure to the internet or giving additional permissions to people. And I'm also thinking about doing it in a safer manner, as it was done with viewing our GCE bucket content in the artifacts on it. So people won't have to have like a direct access to our build cluster, but still, based on some authentication and authorization, be able to trigger the jobs without doing the PRs. But on the other hand, the PR leaves a trace what was done in GitHub, right? And in this case, we will only have any trace of it in the logs in Pro. So
Yeah, and I think in many ways it's okay. Let's say there was an accident and we've created a bad one. We can always go to Docker Hub and delete the image there, right?
Right.
So it's generally okay. And I also see that you're tagging it with the pull base ref. Is that the git commit?
That's the tag. It extracts tag
Right.
like this.
But
this
the
because
tag. Oh,
this one-
you mean the git tag?
the git tag, yeah. It will.
Okay.
This one runs on the branches, and if the branch name starts with v dot and whatever,
I see.
only then it will after you create this.
So
branch,
if there is no tag, if it's just a PR merge with a commit.
so that's this job. So it takes the build ID. From the prob, so the number of build basically, so you can find it in the logs which one was it. We spoke some time ago. I just remembered about using like a SH1, SHA1,
Right.
from a Git here. I look into it, but I might be wrong. But in exposed variables in the containers, there's probably only this long one. So I have to look into it.
Okay, and I see you're marking it as latest. I think the latest tag should only apply to tagged versions, in my opinion, because these would be dev builds, right? It's only a tagged version, I think, that should get the latest tag.
Yeah, I guess when we release it, it should tag only there. So
right, because unfortunately, some people out there in the world like to use images with just the latest. So in this, if they do that, they would get our dev builds, which I don't think we want. Yeah,
that's a good point. I probably have to coordinate this with Dennis. Since it was his request to have the latest tag on a dev build, he's using it in some configuration files or whatever, his make files or something. So I'll speak with him, I guess tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, because I think for dev builds, well, you use your own user, don't use the official Nefio, right? Because official users would, if they do this, they would be getting our every merge. And we don't want that. Because it's work in progress. Yeah. It's only tagged versions. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll speak with Dennis tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
We'll change
that. That's a great point, all that you brought up. Yeah.
All right, cool. But as for the name, we're good with 35GC-operator as a artifact name.
Yeah, it's what we've been using. I mean, we have a huge problem with a lot of names. We don't have a real consistent, but we had an open issue to discuss it, but we're not going to make any changes. For now, it's fine.
Okay, cool. One more thing while we're at the naming thing. Few meetings ago, we were talking about renaming the repositories. I was thinking it's probably the best to do it before release.
I tend to agree. Other people don't agree with us.
because once people start forking it, I feel like announcing the release will kind of open the floodgates of people interested in the code. We'll start forking it, and then we change the name. It will.
Well, I will say one good thing that even if we rename later, GitHub will do the right thing. So it will keep all the forks, and GitHub takes care of that. So we won't break anybody's fork, but it will be confusing, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you, but I really think we don't have time to do that. To make that discussion and agree on what our new names would be. There's an open issue for that. Yeah, I don't know. I think people don't have appetite for that right now.
It could possibly create at least few headaches. I feel.
Well,
Alright,
that's just it. People, where either we do the headaches right now for us, or the headaches will come later.
and yeah, with a bigger headache.
Yeah.
I guess. All right, for a versioning, I'm interested. What are your ideas?
That's the thing. Yeah. So before this, right? On your previous topic, rather, in Tal. So I think the people were hesitant to do this because if you change the repos, then obviously that will break the code, and we'll have to change the code, the dependencies for the change
Right.
names. So that was a sentiment behind. That was the one sentiment. The second sentiment is arriving at the right names itself may take time. That was the second sentiment. But I agree with both of you that it's better to do it now rather than later. But it looks like based on the priorities that we have a bigger issues to tackle at this point of time, including this particular topic that we are going to talk about it right now. Versioning. I know Tal had a very strong opinion about this. And then Wim also had one, I had one. So that's why we just heard what John's opinion is. So I would request all of us to discuss in the next 5-10 minutes here what exactly should be our strategy. At least it may not be the strategy forever. Obviously we can change once it matures a little bit project. At least for now, immediately for R1, what should be our NFU versioning, so that once whatever we decide in the next 10 minutes, I will come up with an email, send the TSC. This is our versioning scheme, and this is.
So Bala, the meta issue I think is I don't think it's SIG number 2 who should be discussing this and proposing to the TSC. I think we should discuss it with the TSC. That's my opinion.
Yes, we could do that. That's what I've done in the Slack, but I've got 0 response.
Well, we'll have to do it in a meeting. Slack, the TSC members aren't on Slack, but I think we should take 10 minutes in the next TSC meeting and discuss it there with feedback from the TSC. That I think it's just too important an issue because it's an outward facing issue about the project. So it's not an internal implementation for SIG number 2. We can definitely be part of that conversation, but I think in the end, it's important that the TSC understands the issue. I mean, they can ask us questions about it and we can answer them if they have concerns or what different schemes mean. But I think ultimately the decision and the discussion should be there.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think what Bala I suggest is let's if we can already have an agreement amongst ourselves, we can come up with a proposal, and then it's up to the TSC to either scrap it or come up with something else.
Yes.
At the end of the day, they will decide, but at least we can make a proposal and then take it from there, right?
Well, my point is we haven't agreed yet. I don't think we need consensus here. I don't think SIG number 2 needs to have consensus.
So when I say it all, I mean, so basically the way TSC is functioning is we need to feed them with certain data. And by the next TSC meeting, I think it may be slightly late for us to, for example, if you're doing docs or cutting the branch or whatever, maybe slightly, I don't know, when is our next TSC meeting? Let's see.
Well, yeah,
Wednesday,
but it's something we need. So here's what we can do. We can present the TSC with a few options and help them understand the differences between them.
We have this week. Yeah, we have this week. Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. So yeah, let's discuss the options. So my opinion, I'll state my opinion. I'm either it should be 0.1 or something like R1 is what I think, without attaching much semantics to it, at least for now, without explicitly stating our support scheme or depreciation scheme, APIs depreciation, that's what I meant. So without stating any of that, just say it either 0.1 or something like R1 is what I'm thinking we should do for this release based on where we are. So I would like to hear each opinion from each one of us here.
My view is also 0.1, right? I would use basically two names. I would take 0.1. I would never do 1.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think earlier we were saying we were so against V1 for so long that I kind of figured that's probably what people do not want.
So I would do 0.1.0 basically, and but externally call this R1.
Okay.
And note that R1 is not is more of a marketing name than anything else. In Nokia, what we are doing, by the way, as numbering, is we use the year and the month when the release comes out.
Yeah.
So we would call this 23.6.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, because we keep to this semantic scheme. As John said,
Yeah.
we're kind of promising the compatibility based on the minor version and so on. So and it might as well change in a week, right? So then there's gonna be obvious questions why something's not working.
Because my view is that for Go to operate properly, semantic versioning is kind of a little bit embedded.
Yeah.
With the Go bot system, so you have to use the semantic versioning somehow. But then you could still tag it with a, let's call it, I would call this a marketing release name.
Okay.
And I think that's what I would do too. Basically, one tagging in Git, and you can tag both in Git, not a problem. But yeah, I would not use 1.0.x. I would use 0.1.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Rado, what is, you agree, or do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I'm all for numeric versioning, so like 0.1.
Okay.
Something like this, or it might be a name like Amsterdam, Beijing, whatever, like it was in ONUP.
Okay.
And OpenStack does it too.
So in this case, nobody knows which release is this. So they will have to go to our website. So we'll up, the website statistics for viewers. I don't really like, for Ubuntu, for example, I don't really know which one is which. Is FOSSA 2004 or whichever, 2204 or something, or was it just some other animal? But joking aside, yeah, I guess like a 01 or something will do, or as Wim said, with like numbers from the release date. That's also showing like when it was released, but it's not really promising any API compatibility structure, I guess.
All right. Thanks. Stephen, any particular?
No, as I said, I agree with him. This is 0.1 is definitely the way to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Tal, I think I asked you last,
Yeah,
because I have a lot to add. That's why I wanted to
Oh, sure.
ask. Yeah. Cool. Please go ahead, Tal, with your
Yeah. So I'm what we're doing, I think, is very different than releasing a repo. We're releasing a distribution of many components with a lot of like subversions, and this is just going to keep growing. So I'm inspired more with open source distribution projects. So think Debian, think OpenStack, think ONAP. So those distributions, Fedora, right, gives version just numbers, running numbers, right? Fedora 38, right? So when you're dealing with a large distribution, I think the semver gets confusing. The components have semvers, right? But then like talking about the whole distribution is it gets very cumbersome, I think, to deal with this 3-point system, right? So I think it's fine to do point releases if you have a fix to the distribution, right? Because also, let's say between R1 and R2, we're going to do a lot of fixes, and let's say we find one fix to be very critical. Let's say we find a really breaking bug. So we say, okay, we want to do a point release of the distribution of Nefio, right? So then we do that release. But the components will have their own semver. That's okay. The components can be 0.1 or whatever we decide. But I think we have to understand that we're publishing a distribution, right? A very complex distribution. Has many components, including SIG release, including SIG automation, and components on the management cluster, on the edge cluster. In some ways, it's more complicated than OpenStack, right? It's more like ONAP, I think, in terms of the complexity of the different environments in which the components run and the nature of those components. So that's my opinion. We should be inspired by those. Because I think semver leads to the wrong impression of what this project is about. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do a git pull of Nefio 0.2.1. That's a meaningless. It's meaningless, right? That tag is not the one that is being used for what the Nefio release is. That is the version of that specific component. So that's my argument.
So, but still, Tal, we will be providing northbound APIs, potentially southbound APIs. So there will be some API contract that will be extending, right?
Well, that's a bigger question. What is our API contract, and how do we version that? And is the API contract tied to the release? I don't think so, right? Right now, I think we're just using V1 Alpha 1 for everything, right? For the CRD APIs, because that's just the default. But we might, at some point, update it to V1 Alpha 2 or V1 Beta 1. But that's a decision per the API, and it might not be connected to the release. I mean, we can have 4 releases of Nefio still using the same API.
Oh.
And that's part of my point, that there are just so many versions, like subversions and API versions and component versions. And adding also a semver for the whole release is, I don't feel it's helpful in conveying what it is we're producing. Because in the end, it's about managing expectations of users as well. And I understand why people want to do it 0.1. That, in fact, is my least favorite, right? So if we stick to semantic versioning, I would prefer 1.0. But yeah.
But I think what I actually said is more or less in agreement with Tal somehow, right? Because I think what I said is basically I want to number 0.1 in Git, right? So that you have all the components have a semantic version, because the first one will be that, right? And then I think we need a name for the overall release, which could be R1 or whatever we call it, right? And then, as Tal was saying, the API itself is versioning is named based on its tags that, and we align with Kubernetes on that in terms of forward and backward compatibility. And so I think that's, I basically said similar things than what Tal said. So for me, the 0.1 is really the tagging in Git on how our components would be versioned. But the name itself would be, I would call it totally like R1 or whatever. Yeah, when we got merged with Nokia, I started to endorse that because that's what we use, and it's very clear when it's got released and stuff like that. So it's also right. But okay, that's a personal thing. But I believe there is these 3 components that are relevant. What do we do in Git? What do we do overall? And what do we do for API? And these are potentially 3 independent things.
Right. Yeah. So probably, so we have this TSC meeting this week. This is probably we can wait for 2 days. So probably we'll propose these 3 ideas to them, and then probably force them to make a decision in that meeting or on that day or maybe this week.
But I would really clarify the versioning into these 3 buckets, in my view, Bala, right? It's important because they will, if you only discuss one thing,
Yeah.
and these for me are 3 related things, but also independent things. You could relate them all together, or you could make them independent, or loosely coupled, let's call it that way.
Right. You're suggesting that the API version, the product.
We use Kubernetes v1 alpha 1, v1 alpha 2.
Yeah.
So alpha 1 is you are on your own. We have no guarantee whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
We are free what to do. In the 0.1 is really what each of the components should be tagged towards or with.
Yeah.
And then you have an overall release. I think I really like how Tal explained it. These are potentially 3 independent entities that are loosely coupled, of course, because if you do R1 and you use V1, I use all the APIs with V1 alpha 1. Okay, there is a link towards the R1 or Casablanca or Amsterdam, whatever you call them. But so there is a loose binding between them, but each of themselves have their own meaning. You see?
Yes. And then in the Git, we could call it like whatever.
Yeah, I would call it Git 01. I'll tag all the components with 0.1, and then and that's a representation of each of the components in Git related to a bigger release, right?
Yeah.
And that's from my side is basically the only naming I'm really interested, like, you know,
Yes.
what to base the, you know, the repository and the build structure on.
Right.
So that's that's a good thing to use, like a numerical values here. But for the rest, like for whatever we present to the world, for me that's I mean, it's also important. The good name is you know, sometimes a big part of success. So
that's exactly why I think this is a TSC issue, right? Because it's an outward facing thing, right? So yeah, I mean, the process of cutting a release of Nephew would be a script that just goes through all the repos and tags them with the same tag, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're way over time. I just want to be aware of that.
Sure. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Tal.
Yes, thank you. And Bala, you said I have a strong opinion. I have an opinion. It's whatever the TSC decide is good. You know, I can see pros and cons to each approach. It's not that I think only mine is correct. It's an opinion.
Yeah. So thank you. Probably we will bring to the TSC meeting exactly like the way discussed here. Like Wim, thanks for bringing out that 3 orthogonal issues here. I mean, but related. So one is the outward facing one, the Git one, and the API one. So probably we will bring it up in the TSC meeting this week. I'll add it to the agenda, and then we will force them to make a decision as soon as possible. Thanks, Al, for making the API. Cool. Thank you so much. I think we can end this call, I guess.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
So I'm not the host. So someone probably want to stop the recording. Yeah, because I joined the previous meeting without being a host.
I see that Bala and Wim are noted as recordings.